Well, welcome back to Modeling Time with me, Brian Banna. So, real quick off the bat, there she is, all painted, motor and decoder and everything's back in. It's been reprogrammed. I finally picked a road number that I'm going to be doing, and I'll go over that here in just a second. So, like I said, I picked a road number. It's going to be 2317. Now, why I picked that? When we build models, and I'm sure it's the same with you, we look for things that might be unique and interesting to build. We don't just say, oh, I'm going to build such and such number just because. No, I'm pretty sure that we all look through our favorite books or online photo sites and such, and we find something that says, oh, I really want to build that one. Oh, I like this feature, so I want to build that one. And that's what happened with 2317. I knew I wanted to build a phase of the GP35 that nobody's really built before. So the phase is a phase 1C1. Now, what makes it different than a 1C2 is that on a 1C2, on the battery boxes, you have a single set of louvers on both sides. On a 1C1, I've got to remember which side it is. I can't remember which side. So anyway, one side has two sets of louvers. The other side has three sets of louvers on the battery boxes. So I chose it for that. Another reason I chose it was because it used trade-in F-unit 36-inch fan on the radiator. So you got a 48-inch, a 36-inch, and a 48-inch instead of the standard GP35 36-inch fan, which is a modernized version of the GP30 36-inch fan. I'm going to go with the F-unit 36-inch fan. So that's one of the features. While I was researching it today, and today's when I decided that I was going to do 2317, I also saw a couple of other things on it that I really liked. One of them, I had to make the quick change on the trucks, and that was it had a box journal for the speed recorder, and on the other side it had a slope journal, and then it had the ATS pickup shoe. Not all Pennsylvania locomotives have the ATS pickup shoe, so you gotta look at your prototype and make sure which is which. So that ATS pickup shoe is from Athearn. They make a myriad of journal boxes, so I got that one. The slope box is from Athearn, and the box journal with the speed recorder is from Athearn also. So that was another reason why I wanted a little bit of character to the trucks. And the other reason, which is a really small reason, but it's kind of interesting, and I don't know why it's like that. On the Fallen Flags Railroad site under Pennsylvania diesel locomotives, GP35s, there's two pictures of 2317. They're approximately a year or less apart, 1967 and 1968. And it's both sides, so you get a view of both sides. So the 1968 photo is the left side, the brakeman side, and the 1968, let's see, 67 is the brakeman side, 68 is the engineer side. And what's interesting about it is everything on the sill is painted Brunswick green or dark green locomotive enamel. And the usual things are painted yellow. What I found interesting is the bottom step in each corner is painted green, except for the engineer's side step. It's painted yellow. Now, I don't know why that is, but just the face of the step, the return bend on it. So I said, well, that's pretty cool. And since these photos are about a year apart, I don't know what it looks like on the 67 photo, but it's either they painted one and then went to lunch and forgot to paint the other ones, and the locomotive went out, or it's a replacement step. Pick your poison. I don't know what the reason why only one bottom step had the yellow painted on it. So those are the reasons why I chose the 2317. I also chose the unit because it has, excuse me, because it has a 3-strap ATS box on the in front of the engineer's window. I like that big box up there, so I chose it also because of that. So anyway, now it's time to work on the sill unit. Since you saw I've got everything back together on the frame and it's running now and such, so it's time to work on the sill unit. So I've decided I'm not going to do the tread plate. It would be cool, but it's absolutely invisible when you're operating and from normal viewing distances and stuff. It would be great if I was building a fine scale prototype model, but I'm not doing that. So it's just one of those things that would keep me from getting the model done quicker. So I don't care, the tread plate's not going to be done. But I am going to do the steps and the footboards. So I got to do those. So before I continue on building the coupler lift bars and all the stuff on the pilot plate, I got to cut off the pieces that I want cut off. So let me get this, again, get the camera set up over here, and I'll go through cutting steps out. If you're interested in that, I think you might be, to see how I cut my steps out and clean them up, and the reason I do what I do. I can show you the photo etch I made for the steps and for the footboards. I think it looks pretty neat. And so let's get this started. Keep the motivation and the progress going on this project. All right, so I'm set up here, and we'll get one step well corner cut out. I've changed the camera angle. I think it's a better angle than having it directly in front of me and looking over. I think the lighting is better. I can get the light down closer to my work surface and maybe light it up a little bit better. So anyway, let me show you first my photo etch. So this is my my footboards, and I'm going to try to get it on camera. I don't know if I can, but we're going to try. See if you can see this feature in it. I'm going to zoom it in until it goes blurry, then I'll come back, because I need to get really close on this. Oh, there we go. There. All right. So what I've done, these are the Canon & Company steps, which these are not, these are my own, are really good steps, and commercially available, they're great. Theirs are made out of 8/1000 brass. I made mine out of 6/1000 brass so that I can get a finer hole and such, and also to do one other thing. If you look in here, see if we can get it in here, there's little tiny dots around each one of these circles. I don't know if I'll keep moving around, maybe you can see it at a certain angle. And those dots represent the little pimples that stick up around each circle, each hole in the step for grip. Now mine don't stick up, but they represent that, and believe me, when you put paint on these, they look really nice. You can see that. I mean, if you glob paint on them, you're not going to see that. And these are the step sets. So these here, of course, are for the front step. I didn't do them for the rear step because I used the Canon & Company rear steps. But these are, I did two front steps and stuff. Maybe I should have done the rear step, but I didn't. Oh no, here's what I do. One is the front, one is the top rear, because it goes up against the back of the equipment boxes. The next step down is I use a Canon & Company step. So this is what I've got here. These little things here, which I won't be using on this model because they're not used, these little kick plates here actually go right here. They go right here on this edge. But I won't be using them because on the Pennsylvania units there's an MU receptacle here and there's an MU receptacle here. So I won't be using those on this one. So first thing you want to do when you cut your steps out, let me zoom back out. First thing you want to do is put a brand new blade in your knife. I highly suggest investing in as many of these 100 packs as you can get. Unless you're really good at resharpening these blades and making them super sharp and cut real creamy like, I suggest these. I get a couple 100 packs at a time. If I see them at shows, I usually pick them up, and because I go through them a lot. I like the Excel brand. I think they're sharper and stay sharper longer than the X-Acto brand. So with the steps, I start cutting. I mean, with the footboards, it's as easy as just nipping them off. And then I'll come back and I'll clean those up. So we'll just nip these, just get these out of the way. I don't leave a shelf, and I'll show you why. I don't leave a shelf on the footboards. I do on the side steps. On my footboards, if you look closely in the back, oh no, not on this one. Well, anyway, on my footboards, in the back, on some of them, I think I redesigned some of them. Right here, in this area, there's a half etch. And what I do is I smash a piece of wire, and then I solder it in here, and then it has pins that'll go into here. So on these ones, if I'm using these ones that don't have that, then yes, I will be keeping a shelf right across the front here to glue these onto. So stepping back on this model, I will be leaving a shelf to glue those onto. So we're not going to do that right now, but we're going to cut a step out. So the way that I start with my steps, let me zoom in a little bit. I'll just do one step, or maybe one step well for you. How's that? Is I just start cut. Oh, real quick. My photo etch, this is the full depth of a Kato step well. And the reason I do that, the Canon and Company steps are not a full depth of the Kato step well. The Canon and Company steps are prototype depth. But with the Canon and Company steps, you are required to cut the entire step out. And as soon as you do that, you relieve the pressure off of this pilot plate, and it wants to buckle in just enough so that when you look at it from the side, you see the pilot plate come back a little bit. So my steps fit this full bottom step, so I leave the kick plate. As you'll notice, my steps don't have kick plates with them. The Canon and Company steps have kick plates. Mine don't. So I only cut back to the kick plate, and I leave a shelf on the right, left, and the kick plate. So I'll come in here and I just start cutting triangles. And I try to leave about a 20,000th shelf for the step to fit on. Now that I've cut triangles out of it, now I'm going to go in and start with the new blade. I'm going to start slicing. if you don't have a fresh blade or a sharp blade in here, it's not going to slice as easy. It's going to grab. Okay, so the bottom step's cut out. Now another thing that I do, because I want the bend over to not hit this corner of the shelf, I'll just cut that shelf at like a 45-degree angle on the ends. And I'll cut a little bit off the front. That way the front edge will be free hanging. Can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Alright, so the bottom step's done. Now I'll go and cut the center step. Now the center step is a little bit trickier to get to the back. You have to come in from behind. There we go. Get some light on the front there. Now when you're cutting this, you got to keep your eye on two places. Where you're cutting and the bottom step, so that you don't angle your blade in and start cutting the bottom step. So just be very careful and mindful of what you're cutting. Because it's very easy for your blade to get lazy on the heel side and start dragging down and cutting the bottom step. Now it's easier for me off camera to do this because I can get and turn the step the way that I need to be, but I need to show this to you, so it's not so easy. It's easier with the camera at the new position. Now this is the point where you really have to be careful that you're not cutting into that bottom step. A little bit of cleanup here on the bottom. Here's where I have to come from behind and just make a little bit of an angular cut. That's not working. I want to try to straighten this step out, this cut on this step, but oh, you know what? I can do that when I get this top step out. So let's go do the top step. Do the same thing. We're gonna make our triangular cuts in here.
Alright, we can come in here and start cutting again. Now you got to be really careful not to cut this step when you're doing the top step. You'll see my knife is at an angle in this way rather than down this way. When you see me stop like this, it's because I'm making sure that it's in the camera. So because my knife is at an angle, it's leaving an angular cut in the shelf, and I don't like that. Even though it's hidden underneath the step, I still don't like that, so I'll show you how I clean that up. Once I get these shelves cut, check to see, make sure I'm not. I go a little bit more on these shelves so that they don't stick out into the holes. Okay, now to cut that angle off, I'll come in from behind with the knife and I'll just cut at an angle upwards, which is fine. And I can come in. Now this is really important when you're cutting this way, to be extremely careful that you're not cutting into your deck. See, now I can come down and get the middle step and straighten it out. Now it's time to just clean up your shelves. And that's basically it. So you see how I clean up the steps, and clean out the steps, leave the shelf, and after I'm done showing you this, well, I've just finished showing this, I'll come back and I'll fine tune everything, just little tiny whittling here or there, and then I'll go and do the rest of the steps. So as you can see, I've got something going ready to be soldered, but real quick, let me show you. I've got the steps all cut out here and here, and I've grit blasted that area, and I'm ready to put the steps in. I don't want to put them in yet. I have to go over the sill to make sure I've cut everything off that needs to be cut off before I start detailing, because you don't want to come back after you put all this fine detail on and then go, oh crap, I got to cut that off, or oh, I got to cut that off, oh, I got to add that, and stuff like that. So you want to get all of your part removal done before you do any detailing. So now that I've said that, I've got, you can see I've got one step, or one footboard installed. Actually, it's not installed, it's not glued in yet, it's just pinned and stuff. And that's what I was going to do here, is show you the soldering of the footboard. Now, I did find the correct footboards. These ones that I showed you earlier, I didn't notice, but it says GP30 footboards. The GP30 footboards do not have a fold over on the inside because they go up against a kick plate. So they only have a fold over on the outside and the face. I did find my GP35 footboards, and again they have the little holes or little half etches around each circle. And like I had mentioned earlier, see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. See how far I can go. Oh, a little too far. There we go. So there's a little half etch here and here on each step. That way I can solder 12 thousandths wire into it, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I can take a little bit of flux. Put it on there. Take my piece of wire, dip it in flux a little bit, stick it on there. Take the other wire, put it in flux a little bit, put it on there. Take my piece of tape here, everything's locked in place. Take my soldering iron and put just a very, very small amount of solder on the tip. It's like that. And that one's soldered in place. Do that again. Gotta put some flux on that. That's a cold joint. Do it a little bit more. Let the soldering iron heat up after I've cooled it down, wiping it off. There we go. There's that joint. And let's do this one again. Let it heat up. There we go. There we go. All right. So we got those taken care of. I just want to, there's a little tip on there. There we go. Okay, so that's taken care of. Now, what I want to do, see on the front side, you can't see anything there. So now what I want to do is I want to fold over these pieces here. Whoop, off screen there. Let me zoom out. Can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to fold over these edges. Get these tools out of my way. Whoops. Grabbed it a little too much. There we go. There's that one. And I'll just do the same thing over here. Grab it at the joint, or the fold line, and bend it over. Alright, now one of the things I want to do real quick is I got a Q-tip here. I want to clean the flux off of the bottom of this. So alcohol does a good job, MEK does a good job of cleaning the flux off. That way when I put CA on there, it's not going to have any problems sticking. Alright, now what I want to do, now that I got these edges folded over, this one needs to be folded just a little bit more. Same with this one. Okay, now that I've got these edges folded, I bent that a little bit. Okay, now it's straight. Now that I got these edges folded, I'm going to take some flux and I put it right on the corner. And again, we're going to take just a little bit of solder. Now when I wipe this soldering iron off, I have to let it heat up again, because right now with it being wiped off, it's cooling down, so I gotta let it heat up so I can grab just a very, very small amount of solder. And hit that corner, just like that. Do the same thing to the other corner. Just like that. That takes care of that. Now I just take a diamond file, clean those corners up. And that takes care of that step. Now I need to cut these pins down to approximately there and there. So that's 12 thousandths diameter pin. And these, so I've drilled the holes. You see the little shelf? See the little shelf right there? I've cut the ends back so that my folds fit around it, where the old cast-on footboard was, and I drilled the holes halfway into the cast-on footboard and above, so that when I put this on, the bottom of this step will rest on that original footboard. Like that. So that's how I'll do my footboards. And with the pins in there, I mean, I have to trim them back a little because you can see them a little bit through the MU pockets, but I'll just trim those back. But once that's all glued in, because I got the pins, these are going to be very solid, and I will not have to worry about them breaking off and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other two footboards made, and then we'll install the steps, because I believe I've got everything cut off that I need to cut off, so everything's cool. All right, so I've got everything cut off of the sill unit that I need cut off, and I can start gluing things on. So I've glued the step or the footboards on, except for one, because I want to show you something, and I glued one step well set of steps in. So we'll glue another set in on camera, and because I want to explain a couple things. But first off, what I wanted to explain on the sill unit, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, now on the bottom where I soldered these pins in, where am I at here? Here we go. There's a blob of solder and the pin there. Well, I needed to make a little recess in that area, right? See if you can see this. Right here and right here, so that because they were interfering with the shelf, so I just need to make a little clearance. So, and then I cut the pins short, so they won't be visible through the MU pockets, and it fits in there. So then I'm going to show you what I do with CA. There's a little tip here. This is a bit of blue painter's tape. I use thin CA and I use medium CA. Let me see, yeah, medium CA. So what I do is I turn the bottle slowly, and I get a little bit of their surface tension, and it just stays right like that. So I got a nice little blob of CA there. I get my, if you get too close to another blob of CA, it'll run over to it. But painter's tape is cheap, and I can do this. Then I get my, oh, my step came out. Then I get my, I'll hold that step in, and I will make sure it's straight, and I'll get some CA on my drill bit there, and I'll just touch it against the edge and hold it in place. Quickly adjust it, make sure that it's straight. There we go. Get some more CA on there. And just load it up. Touching just the joint. Got to make sure it's straight still. This one looks like it's a little, oh, I know what I need to do. I need to take some plier or some tweezers here and just tweak it down a little bit. There we go. There, now it's straight. Okay, now I can finish the glue joint. And that's it. So now I've got all the footboards in. Zoom in on that and you can see it nice and up close. I think I can get it to about right there. There we go. Now you can see the footboards. And now, and then of course on this side, and there's the steps that are glued in. So what I did is on the back of the steps, I took a sanding stick and I just scratched up the whole surface. Then I cleaned it with alcohol, got it all cleaned off, and now I can cut them out. Usually I don't put my piece of tape this close. Usually it's up in the corner, but I needed to put there to show you what I'm doing. And so for each step well, I'll put a new blob of glue out. And for these, for the steps on top, I use the medium CA. So let me put some out. It does the same thing, but it holds a tighter bubble than the thin CA. Now, I made myself a pair of step tweezers a long time ago. These are old tweezers. I think I got them off of Micromark. And what I did is I bent one of the ends in up at about a 45-degree angle. That allows me to grab the step underneath the fold. Because once you make that fold in the front, you can't grab the step flat. You have a possibility of bending the fold out a little bit, and also you can't hold it solid. So I made this little 45-degree bend in the tip so that I can hold the step. So let me start with the it doesn't matter whether you start with the top or the bottom, but I'm going to start with the top because it makes it easier to put the second layer of glue, thin CA, underneath it. So bend it over, make sure the bend is tight. See, I can hold it solid now, and it's straight in. Now I go and I'll test fit it into the top, make sure that everything fits properly. Push it up against the kick plate. Everything looks good. So now I can get my screwdriver out, clean up the tip, and lay in some medium CA along that shelf. Alright, and then I can get my step, put the back of it up against the kick plate, and then slide it down over the CA and hold it in place for a few seconds, and we got our first step in. Then I'll go back with some thin CA and I'll reinforce the corners. And the front edge where the rollover meets the shelf. There we go. So now we got that step in. Now remember a couple of clips back I mentioned that I cut. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Okay. Remember a few steps back where I said that I cut the shelf back on the ends a little bit? I do that because I just stabbed myself with a piece of 12 thousandths wire. I do that because if I don't do that and I put this step in, the fold over is going to go to the outside of that edge and it's going to pull the back away from the kick plate. So that's why I do that, is to give clearance for that fold over. So let's do the next one, the middle step. Do it the same way. Now remember where the center of the camera is. Alright, I'm going to test fit it. Oh, I grabbed a step too hard and bent it a little bit. There we go, all bent back. You have to be careful with the handling of these things. Okay, there we go. Now we want to test fit this. Make sure it fits in there properly. Everything looks good and straight. It's not angled, you know, like out this way or out this way. It's in line with the sill unit. So that's good. So now, get some more CA. I'm going to get it on this middle shelf. Some of these shelves I cut a little too far in, so there's just a tiny bit there. Pick up my step and let's get that sucker right in there. There we go. That one's in. Now we'll get some thin CA. It's starting to congeal, but it's still thin. And I'll put it in that joint there. And this one here. There we go. So that's in solidly. Just pressing the top of the step down, just to make sure it's nice and contact all the way around. Okay, that takes care of that one. And now we'll just go for the bottom step. I'll be more careful with this one. There we go. Let's make sure it fits properly. Perfect. Yep, perfect. I thought I saw it going in as an angle, but it's not. Alright, so now we'll get some CA on that. Alright. Up against the kick plate, slide it down, hold it in place for a second. There we go. And let me put out a little bit more thin CA because this stuff is getting treacle-like. There we go. Love that word, treacle. My friend Tony Sissons used it once. I was like, that is a great term. When your CA turns to treacle. And now we'll just glue this bottom step in. Or rather reinforce it with thin CA. The bottom step you can reinforce all the way around. The middle and top step have holes too far on the back that you can't get to gluing the edge without filling the holes. So that takes care of another step set. So I'll go ahead and get the other two step sets in. And before I end this, let me pull back a little bit. The other things that I need to do is, you'll notice I cut off the jacking pads, but I left just a little bit of the jacking pad on the side sill, which will be trimmed off prior to putting the new jacking pads on. That's there just so I know where to locate the new jacking pads. The new jacking pads are these. These are the old Rail Flyer GP jacking pads, so I have enough to do like 28 locomotives or something like that. I hoarded these just before he went out of business, and then I went around the country and online looking for them and bought whatever I could find. So I've got enough to do 28 of those. So those are the jacking pads. So those are going on all 4 places. Then I have the ATS unit that goes under the sill. You can see it right there. Let me see if I can pull it up there for you. I got these from Mike Rose. He had them cast a long time ago, and they come with a ATS shoe, but I'm using the Athearn one, so I don't need the ATS shoe. But I have plenty of these to go around for myself. So I'll clean off this backing piece, and I'll drill it out. This goes up under the sill unit, right in this area here, and then I have a piece of wire in the truck that I'll bring up to that, and so that'll take care of that. I've got the holes drilled for the MU hoses, so I can get those in. Those will be Kato. Those will be these Kato MU hoses. I bought a billion packages of those, and so I have plenty of those. And what else goes on here? And then just rebuild the coupler lift bars and put the train line hose in, and then get the handrails done and on. And and I got to do the MU receptacles here and here, and same on the other end. And that pretty. Oh, one other thing. When they build these things, you'll notice on EMD units there's a little pad right here. What that is, it's a stepwell that comes out, stepwell sheet metal that comes out and wraps around the end of the side sill. So I'll do that with 5,000 styrene, and then I'll cut it and trim it and blend it in. So I'll show you that when I do that. So right now I'm just going to get the steps in.
Well, that takes care of putting the steps and the footboards on. I think it's a good time to stop the video right now, because if I try to do the video as a whole sill unit build, it'll just go on forever. So I think I'm going to break it up into little sections. So that's the end of this video. So right now we have a sill unit with footboards and steps in it. So that's a good, some more good progress. Next up will be to put the jacking pads on, to put this little ATS sending unit on, and probably the MU receptacle. So that'll be all in another video. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe you got some ideas of things to do. And again, I really appreciate your time, and thank you for watching.